every single person should have housing. If there was any system that could guarantee each person housing, whether you call it the abolition of private property or you call it, just a statewide housing guarantee, it is preferable to what is going on right now. And I think that people try and play like gotcha games about these kinds of things. And it's like, look, I care more about whether somebody has a home.
Yeah, I care. It's really easy to say I care when you're spending other people's money. But that little sneaked in, if we want to abolish private property, that might work. That's really what's going on.
A lot of people are afraid of the word socialism, and a lot of people have misconceptions about what it means. I'm a democratic socialist, and what socialism means to me is a commitment to dignity.
Okay. All right.
A state that provides whatever is necessary for its people to live a dignified life. So the typical big three that we talk about are housing, healthcare, education. Whether it's childcare, whether it's public transportation, whether it's our utilities, whether it's our housing, whether it's our healthcare, these are not things that should be up for debate.
So just to be clear, here are the things that should not be produced privately and by people, individuals who can make deals with each other, have contracts, invest, and then build capacity to sell things to other people voluntarily. That's all that capitalism is. It's just people doing deals with each other voluntarily. Can't use that system for the important things like healthcare, food, housing, education, transportation, childcare. That's kind of all of life. That's kind of the whole enchilada. We can let Apple make us iPhones. Okay. We can let people like his famous mother make movies because, of course, that's going to be a totally free market with very little regulation. And, you're free to make billions of dollars if you can pull it off. You can do that. You can be a movie maker and that can be private. But for everything else, we should have state ownership of the means of production.
Because we see what happens when we let the market be the sole determinant of the distribution of dignity.
Okay. When the market is the sole distributor of dignity. I'm not even sure what he means by dignity, because it sounds like what he means by dignity is a modern 21st century comfortable life. I have a very different notion of dignity, which is fundamental human respect, that I have sovereignty over myself and my body, and you can't just take stuff from me or do things to me because it violates my dignity, my sovereignty as a person. That's not his definition of dignity, because right below the surface of all his free stuff is taking it from other people and then forcing people to do the work, which is why we end up with gulags everywhere. Because if you can't make a living being a doctor, not a lot of people go into medicine. And if you keep doing that long enough, you end up needing to conscript people into medicine. The other piece of the puzzle here, I want to just replay this because it's really important.
These are not things that should be up for debate, because we see what happens when we let the market be the sole determinant of the distribution of dignity.
We see what happens when we let the market be the sole distributor of dignity. What are you talking about? We don't live in an anarcho-capitalist society. Every element of what he's talking about has government involved quite substantially. And the areas where government is involved the most is the areas that are the most broken and the most expensive and have grown the most as a share of income, namely healthcare, education. Those are the two places where government has near total monopolies, and they have outpaced inflation for decades. Housing is next in line, and the financing of housing has been entirely controlled by government regulations and large government entities like Fannie and Freddie, which is an entire other video I could get into. But a lot of what's going on when it comes to housing and housing costs that isn't at the city level, like telling you how many outlets you need to put in and how having 6 months to build an unload bearing wall. The other piece of the puzzle with housing is that the finance of it is a giant inflationary Fannie and Freddie Federal Reserve scam. So all of that is not the free market being the sole distributor of dignity, whatever. Again, and then there's the next piece of the puzzle here I just think is important to think about when you hear this rhetoric, is this idea of distribution. It smuggles in the Marxist zero-sum model of the world. See, our buddy Karl Marx, which is all this really is, it's all just Marx. It assumes there pre-exists some pool of wealth, and it's in something like a giant warehouse. And the question is, how will it be distributed? Will it be distributed fairly or unfairly, equally or unequally? There's no notion of how things get created, of building new things. It's just about distribution. This is essentially a misuse of a term that comes out of statistics. When we talk about the distribution of wealth, the technical meaning is just looking at the way the numbers plot along a graph. But that's not how we as people, not economists and statisticians, hear it. We hear it and think of distribution center, a person or entity making decisions for who gets what. Guest of the show and former Democratic Socialist-friendly mayor of New York, Bill de Blasio, who I personally like, but who was a really poor mayor. I'm sorry, Bill, but you weren't good. He had this saying, we have plenty of money, it's just in the wrong hands. Again, the assumption being there's these resources out there, and we just need to decide that other people get it than who has it right now. This is the philosophy of theft. It is the philosophy of communism. And that's what we've got going on here. Now, today's communists look a little different than they used to. So they used to be guys like this. Guys with scary mustaches, with constructivist fonts, strong men. Now, they look a little more like this.
If we want to defeat capitalism, we are going to need a party that will organize working people to fight for the demands that we want and to win socialism. Thank you so much.
Right.
Quick point of privilege. Quick point of personal privilege.
Yes.
Guys, first of all, James Jackson, Sacramento, he, him. I just want to say, can we please keep the chatter to a minimum? I'm one of the people who's very, very prone to sensory overload. There's a lot of whispering and chatter going on. It's making it very difficult for me to focus. Please, can we just, I know we're all fresh and ready to go, but can we please just keep the chatter to a minimum? It's affecting my ability to focus. Thank you.
Thank you, comrade. Okay.
Thank you, comrade, for your hypersensitivity about your auditory processing problems. But we'll storm the gates soon enough. Oh, just you wait, it gets so much better.
Is there a speaker against name, chapter, pronoun?
Point of personal privilege.
Yes.
Please do not use gendered language to address everyone.
This is what we're dealing with. This is the Democratic Socialists of America convention. It's from a few years ago, but it's all the same stuff. It's woke all the way down. Below the surface, though, it's pretty brutal.
What the purpose is about this entire project is not simply to raise class consciousness, but to win socialism. And obviously raising class consciousness is a critical part of that. But making sure that we have candidates that both understand that and are willing to put that forward at every which moment that they have, at every which opportunity that they're given. We have to continue to elect more socialists. And we have to ensure that we are unapologetic about our socialism. There are also other issues that we firmly believe in, whether it's BDS, right? Or whether it's the end goal of seizing the means of production.
So, this is the useful idiots situation that Lenin talked about, where you can't really let the masses know too much about your real end goal. You got to keep them kind of in the dark with flowery language about free stuff while you plot to seize the means of production, which is to say, steal the stuff you want to control from the people who built it and the grandmas who put their retirement funds into investing in it. That's what we're talking about. That's what this guy and his ilk are about. This is a movement going on in the Democratic Party in its centers of intellectual gravity. He is not alone.
The Minneapolis DFL has endorsed State Senator Omar Fateh to be the next mayor.
I'm running for mayor.
State Senator Omar Fateh, a Democratic socialist, has won the DFL endorsement, gaining at least 60% of the vote Saturday night.
State Senator Omar Fateh has represented the South Minneapolis area where George Floyd was killed since 2021. He is a Democratic socialist who championed the cause of Uber drivers. He backs an additional tax for affordable housing. He supports rent stabilization and a $20 minimum wage. And in 2022, he supported a losing charter amendment that critics say would have defunded the police.
By the way, and plenty of people have covered this, and there's lots of data out there. Nobody that lives in an unsafe community wants to defund the police, and never has. This has been, as Rob Henderson calls it, a luxury belief from day one. This is the laundry list of sort of blob, woke, communist, sort of omni-issue, omni-movement stuff. It's, tack on a little Gaza, a little, from the river to the sea, which in this community goes over real big. And you've got the total picture here.
To make an affordable Minneapolis that works for everyone, we need a mayor that works as hard as you do. I'm ready to work hard to 1. Build a Minneapolis that working people can afford to call home. 2. Protect our city from a hostile White House. And 3. Diversify our city's public safety response. By increasing the minimum wage to $20 by 2028 and passing rent stabilization to stop price gouging and incentivizing new construction, we can protect workers. Protecting all of our communities from Donald Trump means not letting MPD interact with ICE, whether it's for an immigration raid or not. Our residents deserve a mayor that will stand up to Donald Trump and say, no, not in our community.
I have a theory. And my theory goes something like this. This guy and Mamdani are a PSYOP plant. They are people designed to turn reasonable, normal Americans, including diverse Americans, let's say, non-white Americans, against immigration. Because you watch this, if you're reasonable, and you think, we can't have these people in our country.
मैं हमारे शहर को अफोर्डेबल बनाऊंगा। न्यूयॉर्कर्स मुश्किल से अफोर्ड कर रहे हैं रोटी, कपड़ा और मकान। मैं ये सब बदलने के लिए लड़ रहा हूँ। रेंट फ्रीज, फ्री बसेस, यूनिवर्सल चाइल्ड केयर और सस्ती ग्रोसरीज के जरिए। पर आपको एक सवाल पूछना चाहता हूँ। तुमने कभी किसी को वोट किया?
Good. I like immigrants. He's going to screw most of the immigrants in New York City because the industries that immigrants get into, especially in places like New York City. They get into running bodegas and grocery stores. They become landlords. This is an immigrant screw job. One of the reasons why a majority of Mexican and Latino men in this country voted for Donald Trump in 2024, and especially here in Texas, is because hardworking immigrants that come here and look at that Statue of Liberty and say, I want to be free to pursue my dreams and build a life for myself. Look at people like this and say, these are the crazy demagogic scumbags I have fled from to come to this country. And now we face an interesting choice. We, as middle to upper middle class Gen Xers who've put our kids into these ridiculous woke madrasa schools and not taught them the value of a dollar or put them in work early enough, have raised a generation that want to social signal with their vote and usher in an era of Hunger Games economics in our big cities. And there's a part of me that says, go at it, New York. Have a blast. We need bad examples. Trash the city. Let's see how far you can push it. Let's let democracy do what H.L. Mencken said and give the people what they want, good and hard. But there's another part of me, the humane part, the part of me that loved my time in New York City, even though it was grindingly difficult, that can't help but think about how many victims are going to be brutalized if this guy and people like him actually succeed in putting these ideas into action. We have seen what happens in this country and especially in others, places like Argentina. Argentina used to be one of the wealthiest countries per capita on this planet. Argentina, at the start of the last century, was on track to potentially beat the United States on a per capita basis. And in came the Peronists, the socialistic ideologues pitching free stuff, and in the cases of our Hollywood depictions, through song, like with Madonna, Don't Cry for Me, Argentina. And they wrecked the place. And they said, we're going to provide it all for free, but since we can't tax enough of the money to make it happen, and we're horribly inefficient, and we're a giant monopoly, and we're filled with cronies and monopolist scumbags, we'll just run the printing press to make it free, and therefore steal your money out of your back pocket instead of your front. You end up in a hyperinflationary hellhole with a 40 to 50% poverty rate. And I think our job in the public domain and as parents is to teach our kids these lessons so they don't just repeat the lessons of history over and over again like useful idiots. We've been here before. Not a single thing you've heard is new. And I want to end with this. My good old buddy, Karl Marx. So in the Communist Manifesto, all this stuff was there. Okay, ready? Number 1 in the agenda: abolition of property in land and application of all rents of land to public purposes. Number 2, heavy progressive and graduated income tax. Number 3, abolition of all rights of inheritance. Number 4, confiscation of the property of all immigrants and rebels, which might be a little time specific, but even so. Number 5, centralization of credit in the hands of the state. Sound like the Federal Reserve? Because it is. By means of a national bank with state capital and an exclusive monopoly. Number 6, centralization of the means of communication and transport in the hands of the state. Number 7, extension of the factories and instruments production owned by the state and bringing into cultivation of wastelands and etc. So again, some of this is particular to Germany at the time. Number 8, equal liability of all to labor, establishment of industrial armies, especially for agriculture. Number 9, a combination of agriculture with manufacturing industries, gradual abolition of the distinction between town and country by a more equitable distribution of population over the country. We will own everything. We will own the land. By we mean the government, the state. We will tell you where to live, where to work, what you can do. But number 10 is my favorite. Free education for all children in public schools. Abolition of children's factory labor in its present form, combination of education with industrial production, etc. We have most of that stuff. And we're enjoying the fruits of it. And I think, the idea that if something isn't working, you should keep doing more of it until it works is the definition of craziness. And I hope we can wake up, and I hope we can find different ways to help other citizens understand that all of this has already been tried. And there is a lot of change that we can do, because we need lots of change, that doesn't just involve handing the people that gave the problems to us more power and control. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying everything's great. Everything's not great. But having the arsonists put out the fire is a bad idea. If you like this clip, you should check out the full video and all the other great content we've got at Dad Saves America. So be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and ring that bell so you won't miss our new stuff as it drops each week.